Communication and information all about to become a lot more transparent at Uber. The company has always had information about its drivers, but it's about to become a lot more detailed. So joining us now to give us some insight on the issue and the matter is Dan Costa, editor-in-chief over at PCMag.com. So first of all, let's talk about this Uber situation. What exactly are they doing with regard to data? What kind of data are they collecting specifically on drivers, and how is it going to be used?
So it started earlier this year. Uber started collecting, so they have lots of data on their drivers, but they started to get complaints from riders saying that drivers were driving erratically, that they were speeding, that they were braking too hard. So Uber went into their data set, they went into their app, and they said, you know what, we can actually collect this data and find out using the phone if drivers are actually driving too fast, if it's a rough ride. And they basically were checking the rider's claims and checking it against the driver's actual performance. So that's where it started, but now they're actually taking it much further and just saying, look, if we can collect all this information on how drives are being done, why not give that information back to the driver so they can know at the end of the week, whether they were driving smoothly and or whether they were driving, either too fast or too rough.
So this gets at my next question here, right? The main purpose of the collection of this data is to provide perhaps feedback to drivers and perhaps maybe for use later on down the line from riders and whatnot. How exactly do you think this will change driver behavior, if at all, and what exactly can they do? What kind of infrastructure can they set up to fully utilize this data to its greatest extent?
Well, like any business, what gets measured gets managed. And Uber's been trusting drivers to sort of provide this customer service that they are expecting to deliver. And they've been relying on rider ratings as the way of evaluating driver performance. Now they've got data that's going to come ride by ride directly into Uber Central. They're going to be able to see how many of their drivers speed on average roads, and then collect that information, give it back to the drivers. If drivers don't perform, and if they keep driving poorly, you can imagine them letting go of drivers that are underperforming. So it's going to offer Uber all sorts of ways to manage their fleet in a way that they never have before.
There are so many cross currents and so many themes being kind of put forth in this particular story. One of those themes is Big Brother, X.0. The other one is this idea that you can measure all different kinds of things for other people as well. So let's talk about the riders. Can this technology be used or data collected on riders as well? And if so, what kind of data are we looking for here?
Yeah, it's important to remember this is not just an Uber phenomenon. These phones, all this information that Uber's collecting is being collected directly from the phone, from the sensors, from the GPS, from the accelerometer. Everyone has those phones, and therefore anybody can access this type of data. Also, all new cars have ODB ports. They have data ports underneath the dash that are used usually at the garage to diagnose engine problems, but it collects a ton of information on your car, including how fast you're braking, your fuel economy. All that data can be captured by Uber to manage their fleet, but it can also be captured by individual users to just manage how you drive. And you're starting to see insurance companies access this data as well. You look at a company like Progressive, they've got their Safe Driver campaign. If you plug in one of these ODB ports that will report back your driving habits to Progressive, you can save 30% on your insurance. So it's a way for them to manage their fleet and manage their resources as well.
All right, so there are some obvious pitfalls, right? Some obvious negatives regarding the use of this kind of technology, the harvesting of this kind of data. You've taken us through a couple of them, but where could we see this ultimately really hurting people because of this, in essence, surveillance technology?
Yeah, I've installed this on my car. I don't think it's anything to be afraid of, but people have to realize that this data isn't going to go anywhere. So once you start tracking how fast you drive, that's data that will be collected, and if you report that back to Progressive, that will be on their databanks for years to come. So they're going to know whether you were speeding 5 years ago, and that could affect your rates going forward. So consumers really need to be aware that once they create this data, it is not going to go anywhere, and they may not always have control over how it's used. So the insurance angle is the thing that concerns me the most. But Uber, when you look at a company like Uber, they're going to be able to manage their resources better. Smart consumers can actually use this data themselves as well. But the insurance companies are going to get it eventually.
Big data is certainly a double-edged sword. That's the big argument on both sides. There are lots of pros and lots of cons as well. Dan Costa, thank you so much for joining us and sharing your insight. That's Dan Costa, editor-in-chief over at PCMag.com. And thanks for watching. I'm Dominic Chu. Have a great day.
Hey CNBC fans, thanks for checking out our YouTube channel. Here you're going to find videos packed with all of the information that you need to be smarter about your finances. You can subscribe by clicking right here and click on all the videos around me or the I right here to watch the latest from CNBC. Thanks for watching.